As a history professor who has spent decades studying ancient cultures and their beliefs, I feel a deep sense of responsibility to share what I have learned. Today, I am not addressing you as just an academic, but as someone who is genuinely concerned for the well-being of families. Each year, as October rolls around, I watch our society embrace Halloween with increasing enthusiasm. We see it as a harmless night of fun, costumes, candy, festive decorations. However, the cheerful facade of modern Halloween hides a history that is far from innocent. It is a history steeped in darkness, paganism, practices that should concern every parent. My goal is not to spoil anyone's fun, but to present the facts as they are recorded in history. It is my firm belief that knowledge empowers us to make better decisions for our children. We carefully check the ingredients in their candy, ensure their costumes are safe, but we often fail to examine the spiritual ingredients of the holiday itself. What are we truly celebrating? What messages are we sending to our children when we encourage them to participate in traditions rooted in fear, death, the occult? This essay is an urgent plea for you to look beyond the surface and understand the true, unsettling nature of Halloween's origins. Many will dismiss these concerns as relics of a forgotten past. They argue that the holiday has changed and is now just for kids. But can we truly separate a celebration from its foundational beliefs? Understanding this history is the first step toward recognizing the potential spiritual dangers that still linger. The story of Halloween begins over 2,000 years ago with the ancient Celts in Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France. Their new year began on November 1st, marking the end of summer, the harvest, and the beginning of the dark, cold winter. This time of year was often associated with death and decay. The Celts celebrated a festival called Samhain, pronounced Samhain, on the night of October 31st. The most significant night in their spiritual calendar, when the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead became blurred and permeable. On Samhain, the Celts believed ghosts of the dead returned to the earth. This was not celebration as we think today. It was a source of great fear and anxiety. They believed these spirits could cause trouble, damage crops, and interact with the living in malevolent ways. The presence of spirits helped the Druids make predictions. Druids, the Celtic priests, made predictions that guided people through winter. To mark the event, the Druids built huge sacred bonfires. At these fires, people burned crops, people burned animals, and offered sacrifices to the Celtic deities. It was solemn, meant to appease the gods and appease the spirits of the dead. Many Celts wore costumes, animal heads, and animal skins. Some wore them to disguise themselves from roaming spirits, to avoid being recognized as human and left alone. Others wore them to imitate spirits, perhaps as a form of sympathetic magic. When Christianity arrived, the Church tried to reframe the festival. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as All Saints' Day to honor saints and martyrs. The evening before, October 31st, became All Hallows' Eve, which eventually shortened to Halloween. The Church's effort was only partially successful. Old Samhain customs, rooted in fear and superstition, merged with the Christian holiday, creating the strange hybrid that we see today. The practices associated with Samhain were far more sinister than simple bonfires and costumes. At the heart of the festival was a profound engagement with the forces of darkness and death. The Druid priests, acting as spiritual intermediaries, believed they could communicate directly with the dead on this night. This was not a comforting seance to speak with loved ones. It was a dangerous and fearful practice of divination, seeking knowledge from the spirit world. They believed the information they received could determine the fate of the community for the coming year. But this communication came at a very high cost. The barrier between worlds was thought to be open, making everyone vulnerable. Historical accounts and archaeological evidence suggest that the sacrifices made during Samhain were not limited to crops and animals. While debated among historians, there are compelling indications that human sacrifices were also part of the most extreme rituals. These sacrifices were considered the ultimate offering to the gods, intended to ensure the sun's return after the winter, to appease the Lord of the Dead, a fearsome deity who was believed to gather the souls of those who had died during the year. People selected for sacrifice were sometimes burned alive in large wicker cages shaped like men. This horrifying practice underscores the deep terror that defined the festival. Another disturbing tradition was the precursor to modern trick-or-treating. On the night of Samhain, Druid priests would go from house to house demanding certain foods, and in some traditions, a person from the household to be used as a sacrifice. If the household complied with their demands, they would leave a lit turnip with a demonic face carved into it at the door to ward off evil spirits. If the household refused, the priests would cast a curse or play a trick on the home, which was believed to result in sickness, bad fortune, or even death for one of the inhabitants. This was not a playful game. It was a form of spiritual extortion rooted in fear. These rituals were all centered around a core belief that on this one night, the world of the dead held power over the living. As we have seen, the history of Halloween is not innocent fun. It is deeply rooted in pagan rituals, fear of death, and the worship of dark forces. The question for modern families is not whether these origins are real. They are historical fact. The question is whether they still matter today. I firmly believe they do. We cannot ignore the foundation of a holiday and pretend it has no bearing today. Symbols and practices of Halloween are not neutral. They carry the weight of a dark past. For children, this is especially concerning. Halloween can introduce concepts of occult, death, and evil framed as fun and harmless. This creates confusion and desensitizes children to spiritual realities. When we encourage costumes of monsters or celebrate imagery of darkness and fear, what message are we sending? Parents must protect children physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Participating in Halloween, even commercialized, means joining a tradition with spiritual darkness. There are other ways to celebrate autumn that are wholesome. We can have harvest festivals, visit pumpkin patches, create family traditions, focus on thankfulness, community, and light, not darkness and fear. I urge you to reconsider participating in Halloween. This isn't about taking fun away. It's about spiritual discernment and protection. Take a stand for your family's spiritual health. This October 31st, turn away from empty Halloween traditions and embrace what is good, pure, and honorable.